In this video, I'm going to take you on a tour of the kitchen garden in early January here in the UK. So here we are in the kitchen garden in January. It's January the 4th. We've got a cold but light day and it's dry. So I'm going to take you on this winter tour of the kitchen garden. And if you've not been here before, on Grown Frugal, we're all about learning to live a lower cost life by growing food, by cooking creatively, and just trying different ways out around saving money while still eating healthily and eating good food and ethically grown food as best we can. So do subscribe if you like the idea of that, and in the meantime let's get around the kitchen garden and I'll show you what's growing really well and also the plants that I'm not going to choose to grow again next winter. So let's do it. So let's start with this little covered raised bed that I made earlier in the year. See my video on how to make this, even if you're rubbish at DIY like me. And as you can see, we've got quite a lot growing. So let's get zoomed in. So inside this raised bed, we've had a really good winter with the lettuce. So the best growing lettuce and with the least pest damage has continued to be the red Grenoble. I love this lettuce and I'll be picking some today and we'll have salad for tea. Really easy to just pick some lettuce leaves off and make a salad in the winter. Not as often as in the summer, of course, but enough. And depending on the size of your family, just grow more lettuce than you would in the summer and then you'll have enough leaves to have salad like we do. And then the other lettuce that I've been growing, and has worked really well actually, once it got beyond the kind of warmer autumn days, it seems to have been much more pest hardy as it's got colder, and I guess that's going to continue because this lettuce is called Winter Marvel. So again, it's a picking lettuce, so I can just pick leaves and end up with a lovely salad later. And then next row in the bed, if you remember from my last video, I was a little bit worried about this spinach, but here it is growing really well now. And now we've got the light coming in, the growth will really speed up, so I'm going to have to thin out some of these veg. But for now, I've got enough spinach there for when I'm making a curry or a soup, just to add some lovely green leaves at the end. And then here at the back, you can see that I've got some chard growing. That's the golden chard, and this is going to shoot up at any minute. I can tell it's just suddenly burst into life. We've got some pink chard. It's a little bit smaller, but again, it's definitely going to come. And then over here, we've got the Japanese greens, and I've also got these in one of the covered beds. And honestly, I won't grow these again. The pest damage has been enormous, and no matter what I do, there's just very chewed leaves. I've barely eaten any because the leaves are so raggedy. But this lettuce is my absolute favourite. It's such a summer crop, so it's an amazing thing to be able to have fresh salad like this in the winter. And these have had quite a few picks, so we'll let that continue to grow and let's move on to the next bed. So here's my brassica bed, and my brassicas this year are continually getting eaten. It's just a tiny little bit left of what was quite a growing seedling. And for those that have been eaten, there's obviously something in the beds. I'm going to replace them with some Cavolo Nero seedlings that I happen to still have as plugs in the coal frame, thankfully, so always grow some extra. So some of them have made it. This one here is big enough now that I think it will survive any more pest damage. And this one here just might survive. It's a bit raggedy, but it's getting too big really for slugs and stuff to chew on. These will still probably grow, and I'll show you what happens to them as we go through the year. And then at the end of this bed, we've got some very healthy looking garlic coming through. All of those garlic you can see there moving along are from last year's garlic that I grew in the garden, and they come up really quickly after I planted them. And then another variety of garlic that I planted is just starting to come up now, a couple of months or at least 6 weeks later. So it is coming up. It's just been a bit slower. Between the two of those, hopefully, even if we have snow, then we will get plenty of garlic surviving and ready for harvest in the spring. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to mulch between the plants today and just give a little bit of protection to these garlic shoots in case we end up getting snow or really hard frosts. So I'm going to get some mulch around them to protect them, and everything's looking good. So here's the second bed I want to show you. So here is the biggest and very great surprise of the season for me, and that is that the Spigariello, this Italian broccoli leaf style plant, is still growing here in January, and we've had a lot of harvest off it. So you can just pick the leaves as you need them. I've even given my neighbour some. Low maintenance. It's lovely that you can just pick some leaves off and then leave it to regrow. It regrows quite quickly. A brilliant little crop to think about if you haven't grown one of these before. And then in the rest of this bed, we've got another Cavolo Nero. We've got a brassica here. Well, that isn't pest damaged, hardly at all. So in this bed, the brassicas have survived, which is interesting. And then we've got a curly kale growing there. I'm expecting that to start shooting up as the light levels go on. We've got some red Russian kale. And then at the end, still there, the remains of my leeks. I haven't picked any of these for ages. They may be a bit of rot underneath. I don't know till I pick them. I think I might pick some of those today and make some leek and potato soup. And then my final bed is this bed that has the greenhouse plastic covering it with the metal hoops. But let's see what's going on inside here. So here we are inside the mini polytunnel, and we've got some chard growing down the right hand side, and then to the left of them you can see that the fennel is still grown really well, and they're not a massive bulb, but they are a bulb. They managed to bulb up even though I planted them late. Something quite exciting about fennel, it's all this beautiful frondage coming up and spreading itself around in the polytunnel. And then next to the fennel, the rocket is still growing. So we've been able to have some lovely salads, and this is a very peppery rocket. It's beautiful. Definitely recommend trying rocket. It's nice and easy to manage. You can just cut bits off and use it from there. And then I've got, I think that's a red Russian kale, although I'm not really sure. It hasn't grown very much, but again, this is one where I'm expecting it to grow up as the lights start going. And then this is the Japanese greens, Green Boy, I got free out of a gardening magazine. And then next to that, we've got, yes, you guessed it, more chard. This is one of my favourite crops for this time of year because I use it like spinach, and I can freeze some. So a lovely crop, and these two varieties look like they're going to be fantastic. The golden chard is definitely stronger than this pink one, but we don't mind because the pink one is really beautiful. They both are. And then along the end here we've got some more lettuce, so that's a couple of red Grenoble on the ends and Winter Marvel again in the middle. So don't let anyone tell you you can't grow salads in the UK over winter. They do need some protection, but this is only plastic over a hoop. Lettuce don't mind frost. Lettuce are fine. If you get hard frost, don't worry too much. Just give them a little bit of protection. Let the leaves defrost before you do any picking, and they'll be absolutely fine. So as you've seen, despite what people believe, you really can still grow stuff in the UK throughout winter, and it might not be as much, but it's amazing to have fresh vegetables from your kitchen garden on a cold day in January. So I'm going to get picking some lettuce now for our tea.